Program. It is exactly 8:33 a.m. And Alhamdulillah, I think I'd like to say, I hope it's not premature, but Alhamdulillah, it seems that we're at the tail end of the pandemic, and it also seems as if, inshallah, this year, Hajj 22 will be going ahead. That being said, as I'm saying, I hope I'm not premature in the statements of mine. We're going to be talking with the South African Hajj and Umrah Council. They obviously are going to be sharing with us a very important bit of information. It's about their very new and dynamic registration portal for 2022 Hajj registration. And as always, we welcome to the program Brother Shaheen Essop. He is the president of SAHUC. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program, and always nice talking to you. And we do hope it's good news this time.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan, Julie, for the interlude and introduction. Yes, we certainly do hope that it is good news. At this point in time, still nothing officially that we have received from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, unfortunately. However, you speak about this dynamic portal. This dynamic portal is nothing new. We've been doing it every year for the past 8 or 9 years. And it is a purpose of which people who are currently in the queue can go and see their position in the queue. And if, for example, we work on a presumption that we will get 3,000 people, then anyone who is in the queue up to 3,000 need to inform SAHUC whether they are ready for Hajj or not ready for Hajj. But by doing so, it doesn't guarantee you a place for accreditation because we don't know what the quota is going to be. The purpose of this particular portal is to sanitize the list so that we don't have multiple lists going out. You remember when you were accredited, Julie, it was list 1, list 2, list 3, list 4, list 5, list 6. So we're trying to reduce that. We're trying to reduce the administration around that. And more specifically so this year, because by now, we would have had accreditation lists out in the public domain already had we met with the ministry earlier in the year. Our release date for accreditation is normally around about, the 10th of January or thereabouts. But unfortunately, not having received any news has created and pushed this delay. Today, we are at the 27th of Rajab, inshallah, this evening. And, Laylatul Miraj is a very, very strong milestone and marker in our Islamic calendar because it tells us that within a month and a half, inshallah, we would be very, very close to, to Ramadan, or we would be in Ramadan. And it's very difficult at this point in time to do any planning or pre-planning as a result of that. But the only thing we're trying to do is, in the last 2 years of COVID, people may have lost their lives. They are in the system. People may be in a difficult financial situation and have fallen on harder times. They are in the system. And if they want to be moved forward, they must be moved forward. But those that have passed on, we need to take them off the list so that other people can move up in the queue and we can reduce the number of queues that we put out.
I know that's sad when you talk about people who have passed on, who are still on the list. It may, to some people, may sound like a callous comment, but it's a reality, and you need to. You need to ensure that you have the right people or people who are ready and willing financially and otherwise to be able to embark on this journey. So, alhamdulillah for that. Going forward, and I know you indicated that you haven't yet met with the Hajj ministry, but do you have any idea at all as to what it's going to look like? Because I also came across a snippet of news from the kingdom suggesting that children over the age of 7, or is it under the age of 7? I think it's probably over the age of 7, who have had their vaccinations will be able to obviously accompany their parents on Hajj and Umrah, or it might just be for Umrah only. Do we know anything else about that?
I think that is not entirely correct. So there is no age restriction for people coming into the Haram at this particular point in time. And that is obviously domestically, because as you know, South Africa right now is still sitting on the red list, and we're not permitted to travel with Umrah visas to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We're waiting to hear when that is going to change, because with the advent of Ramadan coming up, many people wanting to go and people wanting to perform itikaf in Medina and in Makkah. So we're hoping, inshallah, that gets lifted sooner rather than later. But the intriguing bit of news that I've read a little, like over a week ago, is that there was an indication that COVID is almost non-existent in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So their numbers have dwindled considerably yet again, from over 7,000 per day to less than 1,000 per day, and continues to do so. It almost appears as if they're getting to a point where they've reached reasonable herd immunization and a process there too. So one needs to consider, and one needs to ask the question. I'm no medical person, but one needs to ask the question: is it possibly because in South Africa we don't have herd immunization? We've still got a very, very big outcry against the vaccinations in this country. Whereas if you look at Europe, for example, Europe is relatively free, albeit that they've got serious numbers that have gone up in, the Omicron variant release. But at the end of the day, the hospitalizations and deaths have come down quite considerably. So they are allowed to travel into the kingdom. Pakistan and India are allowed to travel into the kingdom. Malaysia made a concerted effort to block their people because they saw that 50% of their returning pilgrims, and this is over a month ago, had contracted the virus and brought it back to Malaysia with them. Malaysia put a block on that at that point in time. But about a week ago, I read about this news snippet where it indicated that Saudi Arabia is almost non-existent with COVID. So there is optimism from a point of view that, we'll get back to reasonable normality. What is reasonable normality? Wallahu alam. But at the end of the day, I think we as Muslims need to be optimistic all the time. We need to be positive. We need to make dua that Allah removes COVID from the dunya in its entirety. And the important thing is, inshallah, that we receive news from the kingdom sooner rather than later so that we can do what is necessary. A lot of people are misreading the document that we put out last week and saying that it's an accreditation list. It's not. It states it very, very clearly that it is a dynamic list that will help you to determine whether your readiness is there for Hajj this year or not.
Okay, I've got a message here from Rukhshana Ali. She says, Assalamu alaikum. I would like to know how I check my place on the portal for Hajj. Can you please respond to that?
Certainly. So the applicant goes on to www.sahuc.org.za, click on the homepage. On the homepage, you'll find a tab called the Dynamic Registration Portal. Once you click on that, you either enter your application number or you enter your ID number, and it should give you a place in the queue. Now, bear in mind, if you see your name there with no number, it means that you are probably down the list quite considerably, more than 8,000 Hujjaj. We have stopped at 8,000 Hujjaj because there's no necessity to put, 60 or 70,000 places there, and people then become disillusioned with it.
Okay. In the meantime, then, what do we as South Africans do as far as, and I know that SAHUC doesn't really get involved with Umrah, but I also know that you do have your finger on the pulse as far as that is concerned. People wanting to go for Umrah, inshallah, and people who truly believe that they are possibly on the list, they'll go and check they are on the list. How do they move forward? Or is it still just a wait and see game in terms of Hajj operators being accredited and so forth?
Yeah, so we've not done any accreditations, Julie. We haven't, done the Hajj operator accreditations. We haven't done the Hujjaj accreditations. This is not an accreditation process. This is purely directed at Hujjaj who may have fallen on hard times financially, or whose conditions may have changed, or who have passed on. Family members must inform us so that we can remove them from the list. And those that have not, readied themselves this year due to financial or any other circumstances will come back to SAHUC via email at info.sahuc.org.za and notify us. This is my ID number. I'm not going for Hajj this year. Please can you move me to next year or the year after or the year after, depending on what condition you have. So that is entirely what we are trying to do. We are trying to make sure that we can find Hujjaj, and we have already found them since the release last year. People have come forth and said, my father had passed on, my uncle had passed on, my grandfather had passed on. Please remove them from the list. Or we're not ready. Please move us forward. Please transfer us a year or 2 or 3 down the line. And that is basically what we are seeking to achieve through this exercise.
Okay, my final question to you, Shaheen, I'm a little confused about this issue. And please just clarify this. I'm sure a lot of people are confused about it. If I'm on the list and I'm not ready to go this year for whatever reason, do I automatically, get taken forward for next year, or do I go right to the bottom of the list all over again?
No, you don't go to the bottom of the list. If you come forward to SAHUC now and you say that Julie Ali is number 120 in the queue, I want to move forward to next year, but your date, let's call it 2012. Your date of application in 2012 will be maintained and you do not lose 100 points. And that is the key to this whole equation. If you are accredited and you do nothing, that's when you lose points. Right now, you don't lose points and go to the bottom of the queue. You basically get transferred and you maintain the place in the queue according to your date of application.
Okay, thank you indeed for being with us on the show and clarifying all of that. We will be watching this space very closely, and please give us a heads up once you have engaged with the Ministry of Hajj. It's important. People are wanting to know this information, as you well know. So hopefully we'll talk to you again soon. Salams, keep well. Until the next time, keep us in your du'as.
Jazakallah khairan, Julie, for the opportunity, and Jazakallah to your viewers and listeners out there. And yes, we certainly will keep you updated with all the developments. And thanks once again to Salam Media. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
That was Shaheen Essop, the president of SAHUC. Brings us to 8:44 exactly, right here on Salam Media on this Monday morning, the 28th of February, 2022.